Two new football playgrounds pipelined for Douala and Yaoundé after Limbe in the southwest and Bafoussam in the west region, and ahead of plans by Cameroon to host the 2016 Women's African Nations Championships, as well as bid for the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations for men. Quad Cutting Sport of Garoua sealed a deal with another Frenchman, coach Didier Gomez da Rosa. Young Sport Academy choose to declare Sango Emmanuel Doumbé Bosso persona non grata at the Bamenda premises. And on our road to Brazil, we probe how much money Cameroon stands to harvest from its 7th World Cup attendance. And away from football, we track a French woman's idea to help Cameroon halt the ongoing boxing talent drain from the country. This is Green Turf, our humble attempt to critically analyze the events as they unfold from and around Cameroon sports world. We are so very grateful that you're standing by with us for our third installment for the year 2014. And so with tons of love from producer Calvin Tekam and director Serge Tachemo standing just in front of me, here we go. Cutting Sports of Garoua have remained one of Cameroon's most successful clubs in recent history, but officials of the 12th-time winners of the domestic league title have not been very Cameroonian in their choice of managers. Following the departure last October of Frenchman Sébastien Desabre to Espérance of Tunis, officials at the Garoua outfit have fallen for another Frenchie. Didier Gomez da Rosa will manage the team this season. The 44-year-old comes in from Kigali, where he led local side Rayon Sports FC to win the 2013 Rwandan League title after his recruitment in May last year. Gomez da Rosa obtained a coaching diploma in 2009 and then a full certificate a year later. Before his installation in Kigali, he had coached several little-known French clubs, though that does not imply he lacks the capacity to drive cutting sports as far as possible in the 2014 Championship and Cup races, as well as the African Champions League. His recruitment also indirectly suggests that Gabriel Haman will continue serving as deputy coach, a post he has held for near eternity. He managed the team after Desabre turned down an offer to renew his contract, despite maintaining Cutting Sports' protracting hegemony on Cameroonian League football by grabbing its 12th title last year, as well as reaching the semi-final of the African Champions League in October. Many are waiting to see if Gomez da Rosa has got what it takes to emulate the exploits of his compatriot last year.
After Limbe in the southwest and Bafoussam in the west, the Cameroon government is planning the erection of 2 more football grounds in Douala and Yaoundé. Sports Minister Adum Garoua and officials of the China Machinery and Engineering Company CIMEC had last week signed a memorandum of understanding to the effect in the capital Yaoundé. According to the terms of the deal, a 50,000-seater stadium will be built in Douala to add to the ramshackle Bepanda Reunification Stadium, while Yaoundé will see the emergence of a 60,000-seater facility fitted with an adjacent 2,000-seater gymnasium, as well as a handball, volleyball and basketball courts. While the time frames and financial underpinnings of the ventures have not been mentioned, critics are questioning the logic behind the selection of Douala and Yaoundé for the infrastructure when other parts of the country are in crying need. Nonetheless, the heralding initiative falls within the scope of a sluggishly unfolding national program for the development of sports infrastructure and comes in prelude to the 2016 African Women's Football Championship to be hosted by Cameroon, as well as a Plan B to host the 2019 Men's Africa Cup of Nations.
After playing and losing the 54th Cup of Cameroon final to Young Sports Academy of Bamenda last December 22, Canon Sportif of Yaoundé have been hemmed in an expanding leadership crisis. For over a week now, two versions of the same team have been training and preparing for the start of the 2014 Elite One season announced to debut on February 1. One of them, the dissident Canon, which has been training at the Stade Malien in Yaoundé, is operated by the Council of Elders of the club, who started fanning the flames of opposition in late December. Earlier this month, they announced the club board chair Céline Eko Mendomo and her entire staff at the helm of the club had been overthrown and shunned the door. But the 3-year serving president, who was in Europe when the coup was staged, has since returned home and is also fine-tuning a version of Canon for the awaited championship race at the Stade Omnisport Annex. The backfire comes after observers expected Canon to bank on its narrow Cup of Cameroon miss 15 years after they last won the trophy to aim higher this year. Recently, officials of the rebellious Canon, coached by, among others, former Indomitable Lion Emmanuel Koundé, wrote to the Normalization Committee requesting recognition as the genuine side. But a release signed last week by the committee president, Professor Joseph Owona, turned down the demand, reiterating it only acknowledged the Canon managed by Céline Eko. She is accused, however, of financial opacity and failing to organize a General Assembly conclave ever since she took over the reins of the team 3 years ago. Canon, nicknamed Pakum, was founded in November 1930. They count 8 league titles, 8 Cup of Cameroon wins, 3 African Champions Cups, 1 African Cup Winners' Cup, and they also won their last league title in 2002, a sharp contrast to the heydays of the 70s and 80s when Canon Sportif were a dominant force on the continent.
After several weeks of an uncertain wait, it has been announced that the 2014 Elite One Championship will finally rumble off February 1st. The decision announced at the dusk of last week by the so-called Professional Football League of Cameroon came after an initial January 18 debut date was postponed for the want of financing as well as the state of unpreparedness of participating clubs. And so on February 1st, Astre FC of Douala and Unisport of the Upper Cam will open the season that will feature 19 teams grappling to win the championship title this year. Though club officials have been applauding the news, observers warn several issues remain unsettled and could well oblige another delay of the championship unveiling. No calendar of match fixtures has been rendered public, and Camtel is yet to translate words of action after announcing it will take over sponsorship of the league following the pullout of MTN. By all counts, many pundits conclude the championship is kicking off on another bad foot.
Now, thanks once more for staying on with us. We sincerely appreciate. Now, it may be safe to conclude that qualifying for the World Cup for any one country in the world is like grabbing the keys to a precious gold mine. And so after booking their 7th World Cup attendance ticket, Cameroon now stands to harvest billions worth of francs CFA from FIFA coffers. Up next, we probe the financial returns while asking the question, where is all that money going to end up at? Road to Brazil is just around the corner.
Hey, let's go. Vamos a celebrar. La fiesta va a empezar.
Cameroon's qualification and scheduled attendance at the 2014 World Cup tournament in Brazil will fetch several billions for the country via the Cameroon Football Federation FECAFOOT, currently managed by the Normalization Committee imposed by FIFA since July 2013. In a rare demonstration of transparency last week, the committee chair, Professor Joseph Owona, issued a release specifying the total financial benefits the country will reap from the 20th Global Football Congregation. Already, FIFA has disbursed $1.5 million, about 750 million francs CFA as grants to enable hitch-free preparations for the Indomitable Lions ahead of the big event. Elsewhere, sportswear manufacturer Puma is expected to allocate 500,000 euro or 325 million francs CFA as qualification bonus in keeping with the terms of a contract linking it to FECAFOOT. And that's not all. Brewery giants Le Brasserie du Cameroun will cough up 20 million francs CFA as further qualification bonus for the team. Meanwhile, FECAFOOT is again expected to pocket 130,000 euro or 84.5 million francs CFA as financial returns from the arranged friendly against Portugal, while the warm-up match against the national Mannschaft of Germany will fetch FECAFOOT coffers an additional 190,000 euro, that's about 123.5 million francs CFA, and minus television transmission rights. If you do the arithmetic, then it is obvious that Cameroon will end up with huge sums of money, especially considering that for every first-round World Cup match, there will be an add-on 4.1 million euro, equivalent to 2.6 billion francs CFA to be collected. And there are 3 slated group stage games. At the end of the day, it will be interesting to see what happens to all that money.
No matter what they say to me, I'm gonna make my money. And anyone who don't believe, best stay away from me.
Defender Sebastien Bassong has not played for Cameroon in a couple of months, but the Norwich City captain and centre-back strongly believes he can be a part of Volker Finke's final list of 23 players to bear the flag for Cameroon in Brazil come June this year. In fact, Bassong has not played for Cameroon since the scandalous 2010 South Africa World Cup, but the 27-year-old is not losing hope of a comeback. He recently told the UK's Daily Mirror that he believes helping the English Premier League side survive relegation could boost his reputation and attract attention from the technical bench of the Indomitable Lions. There has been no explanations for his tacit sidelining from the den of the Lions, even though critics argue the Indomitable Lions arrangement in recent years has been highly defensive, motivating huge competition for places among players. Meantime, others argue Bassong currently has no space in the Lions' den as his form has been unstable in recent months and must thus play his way back into the squad. Yet, in recent outings, Finke indicated he will always fall for players who are regular in their teams. Cameroon have been drawn in Group A for the 2014 World Cup alongside hosts Brazil, Mexico and Croatia. Unveiling the squad's preparatory roadmap earlier this month, Finke disclosed he has been spying and collecting data on the performances of some 42 players in the professional leagues beyond the country. Cameroon continued to mark time on the spot on FIFA's first world ranking for 2014 rendered public last January 16. The once dreaded footballing nation stayed stuck on the 9th position for Africa and 50th in the world as the Ivory Coast, the world's 24th best football-playing nation, maintained their firm grip on the continent's football steering wheel. Algeria dropped one place but kept their second seat, while Egypt gained 10 spots to hop to the third place as Nigeria slumped 4 steps to occupy the 7th position. Elsewhere, South Africa also enjoyed a significant jump that landed them within Africa's top 10. On the global stage, Spain preserved their comfortable lead over Germany and Argentina in the rankings that largely remained unchanged from last month owing to the worldwide break in football activity at Christmas. Meanwhile, Cameroon can expect bad news when the rankings for next month are published on February 13. Next month's ranking could produce major shake-ups in the order of African sides following an announcement by FIFA that it will include results from the 16-nation African Nations Championship, a tournament reserved for local-based players currently ongoing in South Africa from January 11 to February 1. Cameroon failed to qualify for the competition, and the absence now heralds a looming embarrassment for the country, which will participate at its 7th World Cup this year. He might have scored a hat-trick in their league game against Manchester United at the weekend on Sunday, but Samuel Eto'o is still chasing the goal-scoring shadows at Chelsea. And despite his protracted inability to permanently stick out in the English Premier League, it has been revealed Eto'o topped the charts of financial earnings for 2013 for all foreign players currently plying their trade in England. Elsewhere, we come back on plans by Queen's Park Rangers to permanently offload another Cameroon international, Stefan Biya-Etundi, as well as that controversial ejection of Sango Emmanuel Dumbe Bosso from the ranks of Young Sports Academy of Bamenda. Don't you go away. Samuel Eto'o may be having a hard time finding his feet at English Premier League side Chelsea, but the Cameroon international's name is still very present in the financial news outlets, at least since earlier this month. A Singaporean bank accounts watchdog, WealthX, has revealed that Eto'o's revenue for the year 2013 totaled over 30.8 billion francs CFA. The attacker, who is yet to carve a niche of respect in goal poaching in England, joined Chelsea in August from AZ Makashkala, where billionaires Suleiman Kerimov have made him the highest paid footballer on the planet. Eto'o's relocation fee to West London was far below what attracted him to Dagestan in Russia, but the over 30 billion francs CFA he earned last year has made him the foreign player with the fattest bank account currently in the English Premier League. He comes just ahead of Scotsman Ryan Giggs with 21 billion francs CFA in earnings in 2013, Spanish teammate Fernando Torres with 20 billion, and also Yaya Toure of Manchester City and the Ivory Coast with 19 billion francs CFA.
In the course of last year, relegated English Premier League side Queen's Park Rangers decided to send Cameroon international Stefan Biya-Etundi on loan to Spanish La Liga outfit Seville FC. Latest trickles from England persistently indicate that the midfielder may be permanently kicked out from the Queen's Park this year. Manager Harry Redknapp has revealed he is more than willing to offload Biya before the Brazil World Cup debuts in June. implying the 27-year-old will see his contract terminated. And so on the eve of the world's biggest football gathering, Mbia may find himself without a club, a situation that would no doubt play heavily on his mentality as the indomitable Lions get set for the tournament. However, Mbia can find consolation in the fact that he is not the only one being thrown out of the Queen's Park. Harry Redknapp told English tabloids a week ago that he intends to play waste with some of his expensive signings, including a goalkeeper Julio César, winner of the 2010 Europe Champions League with Inter Milan. The 1.89-meter-tall Mbia, who was groomed at the Douala-based Kaji Sports Academy before 2004, has since played for French side Rennes and Olympique Marseille.
Okay, yeah, hustle in the house. Yeah, what? Never let them knock you off your grind, even if they plot to take your life.
Despite winning the 2013 Cup of Cameroon with Young Sports Academy of Bamenda at Christmas, Sango Emmanuel Ndoumbe Bosso will have to find a new base. His contract with the club expired on January 13 and the club officials chose not to extend it, obliging Ndoumbe Bosso to opt out. Young Sports, who lost their founder Francis Young in December following a brief illness, have preferred to direct their attention at Eno Ngachu, coach of the country's women's national football team, who has apparently already concluded a secret deal with the only third club from west of the Mungo to take home the Cameroon Cup. In spite of his commendable efforts, Ndoumbe Bosso is leaving Bamenda with a bag full of complaints. He is accusing the club's Secretary General Alphonse Biffon of usurping his functions by clandestinely preparing and submitting a list of players to partake in the 2014 African Confederations Cup to CAF. According to Bosso, he could hardly bear the fact that while he was still hanging around and expecting a renewal of his contract, officials went ahead to covertly negotiate with the coach of the indomitable Lionesses, Eno Ngachu, to steer the club in their first ever continental expedition. In retort, Young Sports officials have described Ndoumbe's charges as baseless and a complete non-event, claiming on the sidelines he cannot go about claiming resignation when in actual fact his contract had come to an end. The last 6 months have been particularly challenging for Ndoumbe Bosso, who was replaced at very short notice as coach of the under-20 selection as they prepared to represent the country at the last CMAC football tournament held in Gabon. Observers are almost unanimous in the agreement that Cameroon is a vast breeding ground for world-class boxers. But the glaring paradox is that the most outstanding among them continue to opt out of the country to fight for different nationalities. Shining examples among them include Sakio the Scorpion Bika and Carlos Nestin Tankam, the one fighting for Australia and the other boxing out of France. In the absence of measures by local authorities to keep Cameroonian boxers at home and fighting for Cameroon, a French woman probably has the solution. Vilma Perez is working up a project to help halt the ongoing boxing talent drain from Cameroon. Focus is up next. In recent years, swelling numbers of Cameroonian boxers have been increasingly turning their backs on their fatherland in desperate bids to escape usually unbearable training and living conditions, to go abroad, swap their nationalities, and then fight for different countries. Striking examples in 2013 included Sakio the Scorpion Bika and Calvin Nestin Tankam, who harvested world titles for Australia and France in separate categories. And while the authorities have demonstrated vexing indifference, the solution to the ongoing boxing talent drain may originate from without the country. A French woman and boxing promoter is proposing a remedy. Perez Vilma, married to a former Cameroonian boxer and trainer Roger Daniel Ngong, has slated a number of boxing events in the country beginning next month, with a high point slated around the commemoration of this year's National Youth Day. On her menu are gala fights, eventual amateur as well as professional combats and continental championships. Vilma says it is the beginning of an adventure which she intends to see mature in the long term with the construction of a modern boxing complex in the country. Her motivation stems from the apparent huge boxing potential wasting in Cameroon, and according to her, sponsors including the European Parliament, the French International Solidarity Fund, and a number of African banks are already on standby to chip in grants in due course. Good people, that's why we're going to call it quits for this week's edition of Green Turf. Don't you forget to share your stories or your worries with us at Green Turf at canal2international.net. Don't you also forget there is a rerun at exactly 10:30 a.m. Cameroon time on Friday. We come back next week with a fresher edition of your sports show. In the meantime, remember to run from trouble on the double. That way you may stay safer and stay a bit more longer. Until then, shalom.